I want to share this because a lot of people on their weight loss journey, it is not all unicorns, it is not all rainbows, it is very difficult, and especially if you add in medical issues, setbacks, things that are out of your control. I mean, a lot of people, they just want to throw their hands up and quit, and believe me, there are days, even today, that I'm like, why do I do this? I just want to quit, I'm done, but I keep fighting on, so I'm not going to quit. My journey really started back in 2011. I reached 195 pounds. I was 330 at my heaviest on record, and I lost 135 pounds. Funny as that is, very ironic that that was the start of everything. That was the cause of everything. My hands started getting really dry to where they would crack and bleed, and not really a big deal because I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. It is an autoimmune disease. Your body will attack and destroy your thyroid. So having dry hands is really part of it. It's not really a big deal. It's just, one of the symptoms of millions. A lot of people, they really think that this little thyroid, oh, it's just your fat person's excuse to be fat. You really need to educate yourself because this little thing can kill you. So it's just, and then, my doctor would give me lotion, send me on my way. Then it got to where I would have underarm sweating. It got so bad that I actually saw a doctor to get Botox, and I might end up having to do it again because I'm still sweating, unfortunately, and the medicine that was helping, I don't take it anymore. I just recently quit because it started making my eyes blurry, and I don't want that. So, also with the sweating, it got to where my legs would cramp and my toes would start doing the ninja move and bending backwards and twisting, and my leg would just completely lock. And if you ever have that, it is very painful. But when you have it so often, you get used to it to where it doesn't hurt anymore. And I'm glad it didn't hurt anymore, but it's sad that it happened so often. It didn't hurt anymore. I had to quit swimming because getting in the cold water and just the movement of my feet, it would really cramp my legs to where I couldn't swim anymore. So I had all three of those. But the thing is that those three things separately, you don't really connect them. So I don't really fault the doctors at the time because they didn't really seem like they connected at all. But then it started getting to where my labs would come back, and my labs would start being, things were high, things were low, and it's just, things were off. So we were just trying to figure out what was going on. But in late 2011 was when things just really started getting bad. It was no longer just cracking hands and cramping feet. I had 2 dots on my leg. Well, back in 2005, I had major ankle reconstruction on my left leg. So I started getting the little dots, and my doctor put me on antibiotics, which in 2011, I swear I was on antibiotics the whole year because he thought it was an infection of the fatty tissue. But it slowly started getting worse, and then it started to where it just sped up to where the red spots covered almost my entire leg from the knee to the ankle. I say about 60 to 70% was covered in this red spot to where it was hot to the touch. And because of that ankle, I saw so many doctors about Doppler tests, I could scream. And there was one that was 3 hours long. And I kept telling the doctor, well, I'm here. We've already determined it's not a blood clot. They never been blood clots. If it wasn't a blood clot before, it's not going to be one now. So anyway, I went to every Doppler test they told me to. Then he actually sent me to a vascular surgeon. Well, when you're 330 pounds and you're so heavy for so long, I did have a lot of vein issues. None of it contributed to my leg. And my leg started swelling severely. I mean, my ankle was 3 inches bigger than the other. That's a big difference. I have pictures. It was awful. And I was really worried about the lymph nodes because I know of this thing called elephantitis where your lymph nodes get blocked and your leg will start to grow. And there are people that are like, say, 100 pounds, but their leg looks like they're 700. It never goes away. And I'm like, just my luck, that would be what's going on. Luckily, it was not. But for over a year, my leg just swelled, and it would go down, then it would swell. And it was just, it looked like a deformity because if you saw pictures, a lot of it I'm trying to hide that leg because it would look so different. I mean, it looked like I was 330 pounds all over again. So it was really, really awful. So in 2011, I had 6 surgeries on my legs to try and correct the swelling, which none of it worked. Well, when you have Hashimoto's, you swing high and low. And the thing of that is that I kept trying to Google the red patch on my leg with Hashimoto's. I kept Googling it with, hypo, because mostly with my Hashimoto's, I stay low. Very rarely swing high. It's very rare. But, nothing ever came up until one day I actually Googled hyperthyroidism and red patch. Wouldn't you know, it came up. So I emailed my doctor and I was like, you know what? You need to test me for this. I want a biopsy done and I want it done now. Well, by this time, my doctor started listening to me more. For the longest time, I really thought that nobody was listening to me and I switched doctor after doctor. But this one, I think I scared him more than anything because I told him, I said, look, this is my health. If you're not going to pay attention, I damn well will, because I know something's going on, so I don't care if you believe me because you will do every test I tell you to do. And sure enough, I would come in and he'd sit there with his clipboard and he'd be like, what do you want me to test you for today? And I would rather come to find out that I didn't have something than not get tested for it and be it. So that's what I always told him, that just I'll pay for the dang test, with my insurance, so it's not a problem. So he would sit there and he's like, what do you want me to test you for today? And when I told him that I wanted this done, he was more concerned about the little scars from the biopsy. And I'm like, do you not see my leg? You really think I care about a stupid scar? So now I have 2 little scars on my leg, that's in between all the red patch. And, come to find out that it sure enough was pretibial myedema. Somebody with hypothyroidism, you don't get this. So why do I have it? It's not something that he even thought I would have, because I shouldn't. Unless you're hyperthyroidism or have Graves' disease, this should not be happening. So obviously something's going on to where a lot of things that are going on should not be going on with somebody with Hashimoto's. So it got to where I kept asking for a long time, this is thyroid related. And they're like, no, it's not. We don't see any evidence of that. They just adjust my medicine and that's it. Well, finally I took every paper they had, every test they ran, and I went back to my endocrinologist. Of course, I got yelled at because why weren't you here earlier? But I tried to explain to him that for months, everybody kept saying it had nothing to do with my thyroid. Well, almost the next year, he did so many tests on me. Things were coming back off. I did so many tests I can't even count, a different kind of tests, blood work, you name it, I had it done. So my leg was swelling. My hands were bleeding. I'm sweating like crazy. My legs are locking up and nobody can tell me why. My antibodies were high. My doctor's sitting there and he's saying that, well, your body's at war with itself, but we don't know why. Then I started going through a thyroid storm. And I'm telling you now, people think a thyroid storm, oh, well, you're high and low at the same time. You balance out. Are you freaking kidding me? No. Oh my God, I wish. I had so many people I wanted to slap, because when you sit there and you tell me you balanced out because you're high and low at the same time, no. You have the symptoms of high and you have the symptoms of low at the same time. So it's not as simple as you balance out. People don't understand. Google thyroid storm, and what does it tell you? It tells you to go to the emergency room. And I'm telling you, the only reason that they didn't admit me is because I'm a single parent and I had no one else to take care of my niece. I raised my niece. So don't sit there and say that, oh, you balance out, because you can die from that. And I almost did. So I started having issues with my sugar. Well, I've always kind of had issues with my sugar, a little bit of hyperglycemia, but nothing really major. And it started where if I ate, my sugar would get up to about 100 and then just plummet. It would go down to like 70, 60 within an hour. And it's not like it even was high. So I'm emailing my doctor, my endocrinologist, and he's telling me, we got you a blood machine. Come up here and get it so I could test my sugar. And it's just, I couldn't drink coffee because all of a sudden now caffeine and just eating would just crash my sugar out. So I still have a ton of glucose pills. So I had to buy glucose pills. I had to have candy with me at all times, except for when my niece, I go in and get a candy and it's just a wrapper, so I started getting glucose pills because whenever I ate or just out of the blue, my sugar would just bottom out on me. And, it's really dangerous. So luckily I'd always catch it because I'm very sensitive to it. So most people, they don't really feel it till it gets lower. But the second mine hits around 80 or 70, I really start feeling it. So fortunately enough, I was able to catch it in time before it got really bad. Well, my doctor, he finally told me that I have reactive hypoglycemia, but we didn't know why. I'm going through a thyroid storm. We don't know why. I can barely control my thyroid. We don't know why. So, I have so many doctors that are telling me we don't know what's going on, but they promise me we'll figure it out. So I'm doing lab work after lab work, doctor after doctor, copay after copay, medicines. I mean, I can't even tell you. I think I was on 17 or 18 prescriptions a day, and it was just crazy. And I was so tired of it, and I didn't ever think anybody would figure it out. But of course, it got worse. So the really worst of it, my heart started going crazy. It would beat to almost 180 beats a minute during rest. It would usually stay around 150 to 180. Then I would have flutters. Well, Hashimoto's isn't a big deal with flutters. It's normal, But when your heart quivers and you feel the chambers, when you feel the chambers beat, and it's very scary. And it got to where there were plenty of nights where I just told myself, please just wake up. I would pray, please wake up. Heart, do not, because it was so scary. So, I have ADD. It's a symptom of Hashimoto's. Yay. So, they took me off that because my medicine is a stimulant. So I was off a lot of my medications, did EKGs. They came out crazy, so they threw me in a 24-hour heart rate monitor. And my doctor, he said, anytime you feel your heart beat crazy, hit the button. Oh, I lit that thing up. When I went back in there, he's like, you hit this such and such times. Oh, I'm not crying. No, you told me to hit it every time I felt something funny. So, of course, I lit that thing up. So anyway, come to find out, my heart was beating wildly. I was having flutters and PVCs, and we still did not know why. Well, in October 2012, I got this nasty little abscess. I would not wish that thing on anybody. I can handle some pain. That thing hurt. That is number 2 of my pain. Oh my God. Major ankle surgery and that little abscess, top two of the pain. So, I went in to try and get it before it got worse, but it never was on the skin. It was always internal, and it was right below, my buttocks, right on my thigh. So I actually went in a few days later because they said to take this medicine and blah, blah, blah. So I went in and I told him, I said, I can't take the pain anymore. I almost called 911. It was so painful. And because it never broke the skin, they actually had to surgically pop this thing. And they told me if they realized how bad it was, they would have sent me to the hospital, but I'm glad they did not. And this abscess was the key to everything. And as bad as it was, I'm grateful for that thing. It saved everything. So if I would have went into the hospital, they would have done the surgery and we would have never found the problem. So long story short, get the abscess, and it wasn't healing correctly and it kept oozing, but I knew that if it closed, then I would get another one. So my doctor prescribed me more antibiotics, and eventually I was in the restroom at work one day and I kept poking around at it and it went squeak, squeak, squeak. Like a dog toy. Squeak, squeak, squeak. So I called the doctor. I was emailing the doctor, leaving her voice, just everything. She was not understanding what I was talking about. So I needed to do my yearly physical, and I was like, while you're there, press right here. Just press it. And so she pressed it and it squeaked. And I was like, do you hear it? And she's like, oh, I think that was my glove. I'm like, do it again. Do it again. It echoed in the room. Squeak, 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 squeak. I'm not crazy. So she really apologized because she's like, I had no idea what you were talking about. So that led to an ultrasound, which it looked like a little dinosaur mask thing. It was kind of weird. It freaked the guy out who was giving me the ultrasound, which led to a CAT scan. And I did the CAT scan, and they called me a few days later, and they said, we need you to come back for more pictures. Okay, not a big deal. When do you want me to come back? He told me, we need you to come back immediately. I was like, what do you mean immediately? Is something wrong? Oh, no, just come back immediately. He told me immediately like 4 or 5 times. So I didn't tell anybody at work. I didn't clock out. I just grabbed my stuff and I left. So I went and got more tests done, more of the ultrasound, which they weren't even open yet. So that really was like, okay, what did you find? Because you're not open. When I got there, you had everything ready for me. All I had to do was just get there. So I knew they found something. But I really wasn't too worried about cancer because we did so many labs that you would have known something. So cancer really wasn't the biggest concern, but I knew they found something, but I was about 100% sure it wasn't cancerous. So at least I wasn't scared for that, but you really never know. So anyway, I went to the doctor for the results, and he sat me down and he said, they found 2 tumors. And I was like, is that what that thing is? And he's like, oh no, that has nothing to do with it. That's just an air pocket. Of course, I had to get surgery to fix that. But they were on my ovary. One was the size of at the time, it's the size of a softball. And it had a little one the size of a golf ball. They were kind of piggybacking each other. So he wanted to go ahead and I needed to see a surgeon. So I went in, I saw a surgeon. She did her own test. And on November 15th, 2012, I had surgery to remove 2 tumors on my ovary and actually with my ovary. So I had a C-section done. She was just extremely nice. When I was falling asleep, she patted my head because she was really worried that I was scared. But the day before, she offered me some Prozac or something to calm me down. But I told her for 2 years, I kept feeling like I was crazy. Everybody kept telling me, your labs, we can't find anything. And it got to where I felt like I was a hypochondriac. I felt like people were looking at me like, here she comes again, and I really felt like the doctors were talking about me, which I know they're not, but it's just when you're so sick and you feel like nobody believes you. I told her, I said, I'm validated. I'm not crazy. There was something wrong. I told you. And the thing of it is I kept telling my doctor for the longest time, watch, it's going to be an itty bitty little tumor on my adrenal glands because my adrenal glands would have got the heart rate and the sweating and all that. But nope. It was 2 tumors on my ovary, which your ovary is part of your endocrine system. So the thing is that my weight loss triggered it. So as I got sicker, it got worse. And as I got more sick, it got bigger. And then it got me more sicker and then bigger. So it was feeding each other. It was a big cycle. So I went ahead and had surgery, November 15th. And she told me that within the 3 weeks that it went from the size of a softball and a golf ball to the size of a cantaloupe and a softball. She told me that if we would not have found it when we did, that my heart would have gave out. They would have found it in my autopsy. She said that it was growing very fast and that, it would have completely consumed me. It devoured my ovary. It was gone. So that was very scary that, this really, really could have killed me because my heart was going to give out and I wasn't making that up. And it was just very, very it was crazy, and again, so if I would have went to the hospital for that stupid little, abscess, they would have done the fistulotomy. They would have never found it. So that little thing saved my life. One of the biggest things was the weight gain. In June of 2011, I was 195. Well, I didn't really gain any weight until late, 2012. So 2012, I kind of slowly started gaining weight. And my doctors, they're just looking at me like, oh yeah, fat girl who's gaining weight, big deal. And I kept trying to explain to them that I'm not a secret eater. I take full responsibility for everything that goes in my mouth. I know that I have a food addiction. It will never go away. I don't care how much weight I lose. I'm always thinking about food. So I'm sitting here trying to tell them that I'm gaining weight. There's something going on. But this is before we found the tumors or anything. So long story short, within 6 months from June 2012 until December 2012, I went from 195 pounds to 272-ish because it got to where I was so upset because one, I was so sick and no one knew why. My leg was jacked up. My hands were bleeding. I'm sweating like crazy. My legs are cramping up. And then I'm gaining weight and nobody knows why. So I'm sitting there and I'm telling the doctors, I can't be 300 pounds again. I cannot be 300 pounds again because I started almost cried to the doctor, and I think he leaned in to give me a hug, and I think professionally he realized no, so he gave me a half hug handshake thing. So I laughed, but I was so broken, with that weight gain. After everything I've been through, I gained 80 pounds in 6 months. That, when you say confidence, shattered. It's just, even now I'm still trying to get my confidence back, because it really breaks you to gain so much weight so quickly, especially when you have everybody acting like it's you. So I'm telling the doctor, I'm not a secret eater. I take full responsibility of everything I eat. I have a food journal. I'm working out like crazy, and I'm not sitting around eating chocolate covered fried chicken dipped in ranch. I'm not hiding in the closet with a bag of Snickers. I'm not eating lard. I mean, I'm not eating wrong. So that when finally my endocrinologist, he just told me, we will figure this out. Don't go jumping off any bridges. And then, it got to where he was telling me, if you would quit and you would, just eat the way you were eating before, he goes, I'm just surprised you didn't gain it all back. He goes, so if I would have quit, then I would have probably been 400 pounds. I was gaining so fast. And again, we didn't know why at the time. So we didn't know that I had tumors, in my abdomen. So, that is very stressful, to go through. And then, you have people who don't understand anything. And I try and explain to them what's going on. And they just look at you like, yeah, right, who cares, So I felt extremely alone. I felt like no one understood. No one was hearing me. No one cared. And it's very depressing. It's a very depressing part of time. But after I had surgery, I lost my ovary and, having my hormones and everything. It took a little while to recover, and I kept telling you, when I had a C-section to remove the tumors, I was trying to get back at the gym. So I was back at the gym after 2 weeks, and people are like, what are you doing? Even the next day after surgery, I was walking around Target very slowly pushing the buggy, but the doctor told you, she tells you, you have to work out. The more you work out, the more the blood flow, the faster you heal. So I wasn't doing anything that I shouldn't be. She told me to walk, but everybody kept yelling at me about, walking. But I healed pretty quickly. So, it was a good thing. And then 3 weeks later, I had the other surgery, which left a big hole on my inner thigh, like that big. I have pictures, but I'm sure nobody wants to see them. But I had a big hole, and then, the skin was removed, and then inside you could stick your thumb. So it was like a tunnel. So that was it was a pain in the ass, literally. So after I healed, 2013 started, and that's really when I started trying to get this weight off. It is a lot slower this time than when I had the tumors. But so far, I went from, I think it was around 272, but like I said, the doctor, they were hiding. They were turning my head. They threw it into kilograms, like I couldn't Google it, and I think I Googled and it was like 262, but that was before the surgeries. And I was so bloated, from the surgeries and from the weight gain, and just, oh my goodness, it was a mess. So this year was really just trying to heal, trying to recover, and trying to get this weight off. I'm a little disappointed. I wanted to get all 80 pounds off, and I didn't. I only got 50 off, which I shouldn't complain. But I'm going to tell you, after having the surgeries and having the tumor removed, everything is back to normal. My heart is normal. I mean, the second I woke up, it was normal. I have not had any issues with it. I did have one flutter. It was so big a few weeks ago, it scared me, because I was like, oh my goodness. It reminded me of last year, when it was crazy. So I just want people to realize that just because you have setbacks, just because shit happens, just because something sets you back, you gain weight, whatever, medical issues. I mean, don't quit. I mean, honestly, if I quit every single time I had an issue, I would have never started. 2005, major ankle surgery. Why did I break my ankle? Because I was so heavy, I stepped wrong, and my weight broke my ankle. Of course, there's, a lot of issues with that because, needing surgery and all. But don't quit. I was 330 pounds, ankle surgery. I have thyroid disease. Oh, I was using that as a crutch like you wouldn't believe. Oh, I'm just going to be fat. I'm just meant to be fat. And I look back and I'm just like, oh my God, if I really had someone there to really teach me, to really help me, to really motivate me, then I would have really done something so much sooner. Because when I first started, I knew absolutely nothing about being healthy. And nobody was telling me anything. People were just telling me, oh, well, you can eat this or this diet or this pill or this craziness. And I tried everything, every pill, every diet, starving myself, which, I get hungry and I get angry. Not a good combination. So that's stupid. And then I even bought the thing that goes around your waist and supposed to do 1,000 sit-ups in a minute. That hurts, especially when somebody sits on it. You almost get electrocuted, so I don't do that. And then I even did the Ally, which if you know what Ally is, that was very short-lived. So it's just, things happen. You have setbacks. And then last year, February, jumping on a trampoline, I'm flipping and having a great time and then break my knee. So, things happen. I have plantar fasciitis in my foot with a big old heel spur. On my left knee, I actually have really bad arthritis because I was 330 pounds. So don't use anything as a crutch. Don't use excuses, because trust me, I have about 1 billion legit excuses that I could use to sit on my ass and eat anything I want and just nobody would fault me for it. Broken knee, my ankle surgery. And also now I actually need foot reconstruction surgery on my stupid left foot. I keep telling them just chop it off at the knee, but they don't want to do that. So I get cortisone shots, so I don't want surgery anytime soon. I already had surgery on that ankle. I don't want it on my foot because they need to fuse the bone, and it's a mess, and I don't want it. So I'm going to prolong it as long as I can. So again, I could easily sit on my butt, watch TV, and say, well, I have Hashimoto's, I have this, I had tumors. And even with the tumors, I have to get checked every 6 months to make sure they don't grow back, because the type I had, they can grow back. So if they miss one little cell, it comes back. Luckily, there's no ovary there to hopefully throw my thyroid off, but I do have one left, so hopefully, no, in my luck, it jumped it that way. But again, things happen. Don't use it as an excuse. I use it as motivation, because whenever I do reach my goal, this journey, this battle is going to look so much better than somebody who has it a lot easier, because there are people who have it easier than others, and I'm unfortunately just not one of them. So when I look back and say, I've lost right now 106 pounds with everything that I've been through, why can't you do the same thing? Yes, it's hard. Of course it's hard. It's supposed to be hard. Are you going to do it? I am. I'm not going to quit. No matter what, I'm not going to quit. So I just really hope that my story really inspires somebody to not give in. Don't use things as a crutch. Like I said, they could chop off my whole leg and it would solve a lot of my issues with that stupid left leg. But I don't. I'm not going to use anything as an excuse, nothing as a crutch. To me, it just makes my journey that much better. It is hard, don't get me wrong, but look at it. Look at everything I've gone through, and I still keep fighting. So hopefully you find the strength to fight on too. And don't let things set you back. Don't let things become an excuse, because you're never going to be happy if you quit. So hopefully my story and my journey helps somebody. So have a good day.